Is there a way for us to navigate our own death and try to do so in our way, on our own terms, and yet still find a way to use our own death to help others around their suffering, their discomfort with the idea of death? Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to the Death Dhamma podcast. I'm a Buddhist practitioner out here in the world, having experienced the loss of my loved ones and knowing how much my Buddhist practice helped me on my grief journey. And now, together, we have this safe space to discuss death, dying, grief, and the Buddhist teachings that help us really understand attachment, impermanence, being compassionate, being death ready, what it means to live a life so that we can have a peaceful death. Yep, it's a big topic, and we're going to take it on together. Let's go. I'm sorry to have to announce that my cancer situation has developed not necessarily to my advantage. These are the words of Simon Boaz recently, and he was mimicking the way in which Emperor Hirohito acknowledged Japan's imminent defeat in World War II. As this is an understated, stoic way of speaking. But in making this announcement, Simon Boaz is acknowledging, I'm dying. And he's letting the rest of us know that he is dying. And while he's going to die, hopefully, on his own terms within his disease, in his own way as he moves forward with his family, he's also reaching out to discuss death, knowing that this is a difficult, sensitive topic. And in this way, I believe he is a person who is facing his own impermanence, but still helping others on his way out. Today, I share with you some excerpts from A Beginner's Guide to Dying, as written by Simon Boaz. Simon learned in February 2024 that he had probably 6 to 12 months left to live due to terminal cancer. And basically what he says or has said is the prognosis is not quite don't buy any green bananas, but it's pretty close to don't start any long books. And the way in which he says that really characterizes the, I'll say, cheerful stoicism with which he's approaching his death and the way in which he's sharing his thoughts around life and death. And in this way, as he goes through his own journey towards impermanence, he is also using it to be of help and service to others. He has been, and still is, the director of Jersey Overseas Aid. And this is an organization that focuses on doing development work in countries such as Nepal, Ethiopia, Malawi, Zambia, and Rwanda, and also Sierra Leone. I believe they've also become involved with some work in the Ukraine. His approach to his upcoming death is not about what is missing or what has been missing from his life, but what he has already experienced. And this is such a helpful message for all of us because basically he's saying how lucky it is to have lived at all. Just for us to be born is like hitting the jackpot every day of the year. And although he is not specifically a Buddhist, that does line up with the teachings where the Buddha does remind us to make good use of this human life because it is with great fortune that we have been reborn in this human realm. He does acknowledge that the medical process let him down. I mean, it is unfortunate that one of his cancers, a throat cancer, went undetected until it was too late. And so he says, the medical process has let me down a bit, but I resolved not to live with blame and anger. Blame isn't going to buy me a single extra day. All it's going to do is make me angry and sad and twisted in whatever time I have left. And so with those thoughts in mind, I'm going to now go into the letter. I'm not going to read the full letter. You can find it. You just use your favorite search to go look for A Beginner's Guide to Dying, and you'll find it. And I would just like to share some of what he says. So I'm starting off with where he says, so it seems I'm going to hop the twig, probably sooner rather than later, but many things give me comfort. the huge support and compassion which my wife and I have received from friends and neighbors and even strangers, my job running Jersey Overseas Aid, which I'm so lucky to love. I'm still working every day. But then he says, but sometimes I leave at 3 p.m. for a pint with someone because the rules are different in cancer land. And see, right there, what a way to combine the knowledge of dying with still living and partnering things that he enjoys doing. And so there are these 3 related thoughts I have again, which bring me joy and which I would like to share. And these are the thoughts that he brings to us that teach us how he's facing this and also can help us with our own release from suffering as we approach the idea of dying. He says, first of all, I take comfort from the thought that I've had a really good, almost charmed life. I've dined with lords and billionaires, broken bread with the poorest people on earth, accomplished prodigious feats of drinking. I've allocated and for several years personally delivered at least 100 million pounds worth of overseas aid. I've been a Samaritan and a policeman, got off an attempted murder charge in Vietnam, which he says is completely trumped up, by singing karaoke. I've climbed the Great Pyramids, sailed across the Med, and shipped chunks of concrete off Checkpoint Charlie. I've traveled extensively on 5 continents, sung in choirs on 3, and crossed borders with diplomatic immunity. I've seen whales and tigers and bears in the wild. I've seen airstrikes, rockets, and gun battles, the despair of the bereaved, and the vacant stares of the ethnically cleansed. I've rolled a car, been shot in the leg, and pulled one of my own teeth out. Ouch. The Times has printed 8 of my letters, and I've recently vanity published an exceptionally rude poem about cyclists. So let's just stop there. Hey, I get it. You know what? I haven't climbed the Great Pyramid. I may or may not. I haven't accomplished all of these things that he has accomplished, but let's just stop because all of us in our own lives, in our own way, have accomplishments and have lived and we have loved and we've had things that have made up the quality of our lives. And so what he's doing here, even though he does accuse himself of boasting a little bit, is he's saying, look at this life that I've lived. And what a great thing for each of us to do. Look at the life that we have lived. Examine what has brought us joy and love and how we've brought joy and love to others. He says, most of all, I have loved and been loved. I'm cocooned in the stuff. My cup overfloweth. At 46, I've lived far longer than most of the humans in the 300,000-year history of our species. So have you, probably. And if the book of my life is shorter than many modern people's, it doesn't make it any less of a good read. So it's not about longevity. It's about quality. And he even said, he goes on, length and quality are not correlated in lives any more than they are in novels or films. I love how he says this. So carpe that diem and keep it carped. Enjoy the tiny ways you can make other people a little happier. That's part of our theme this season, right? Is people who are helping others with the release from suffering. Enjoy the tiny ways. Again, every day there's a way that we might be able to help someone with their suffering, even if we don't know it. Okay, his second comforting thought. Nobody knows whether there's a God or an afterlife, but it seems unlikely to me that our existence is merely a brief and random flash of consciousness between 2 eternities of nothing. A benevolent creator strikes me as no more far-fetched than the latest efforts of physics to make sense of our world. For example, that volume is illusory and that the universe is really a hologram, or that there are infinitely many universes all existing in parallel. Our almost instinct may well be almost true. What will survive of us is love. So basically what he's saying is, we don't know what's next, but he's believing that there is something that is next. What will survive of us is love. Again, he's not claiming Buddhism at all, but when I read what will survive of us is love, in my mind, in a way, I link that to karma. Not because it's 100% of a match, because it is not, right? Our karma is made up of our past actions, right? And our current actions, which shape where we're going. Karma rises and ceases for us in this lifetime and across other lifetimes. But the development of positive karma really stems down to our intentions and our behaviors, and we definitely want them to be for the good of others. Okay, and then he says, finally, the thought I keep coming back to is how lucky to have lived at all. Again, I'm going back to the Buddhist thoughts on how lucky we are to be in this human realm and how rare it is to be in this human realm. To exist is to have won the lottery. In fact, there are so many bits of extraordinarily unlikely good luck that have occurred just for us to be born. It's like hitting the jackpot every day of the year. Consider some of them. There is something rather than nothing. The laws of physics, the strengths of forces, the mass of an electron are all poised precisely so that stars and planets can form. Inanimate stardust somehow combined to become self-replicating, and then somehow developed further into complex life. And then complex life didn't just stop at ferns and fishes, but evolved into creatures that were aware of their conditions. Matter became conscious of itself. That's us, right? Of all the billions of people in the world, your parents met and merged. Karma. Again, he isn't saying that. That's me interjecting. And of all the sperm and eggs they produced, this is 1 billion to 1 shot just on its own. The only 2 that would make you fused and multiplied. If the moment you were conceived had been any different at all, you wouldn't have been born. So to the staggering improbability of you just being here to read this or to hear me sharing it in physical and biological terms is added to our good fortune in where and when we live. To update Cecil Rhodes, to have been born in Western Europe, because that's where he's from, right, is itself to have won first prize in the lottery of life. We live in the longest era of peace in human history, even though, this is me interjecting, even though we are in challenging times, not everyone is born in a environment, a government, a location, a geography where life is good. We have all been born into this, where it's this longest era of peace. And we're having some challenges with that now, but we have the capability to get ourselves through it. Back to what he says, we also live in an age of extraordinary abundance. The poorest of us richer than any medieval king in terms of access to food, energy, care, transport, knowledge, and justice. This doesn't mean that there aren't people who need our help. There are people who need our help, and we seek to find the best way to help those around us who are suffering. That's me. I think you know that, but just to be clear, that's my interjection. Back to his words. So if I whine that my life will have been shorter than many modern people's, I am massively missing the point. I've existed for 46 years. It's as churlish as winning the Euro Millions jackpot and then complaining bitterly when you discover that there's another winning ticket and you only get half the money. Do you see what he's saying? It's like to have existed, even if it's a shorter lifespan than average, is still amazing. And why would you complain? If you won, 92 million pounds and then found out you had to split it, why would you complain at having 46 million pounds? Come on. Life is inordinately precious, unlikely, and beautiful. You are exquisite. When you say, as you do, 20 times a day, I'm fine, realize that you don't just mean I'm adequate. You are refined, unique, finely crafted, fine dining, fine china. You really are fine in that sense. We say it all the time, but unknowingly we speak the truth. And so he concludes with, we should be dazzled by our good fortune, dancing on the tables every day. And he says, I mean to keep dancing in whatever time I have left here. And who knows, perhaps afterwards too. I've got books for you, starting with Carpooling with Death, How Living with Death Will Make You Stronger, Wiser, and Fearless. The book that got me going and helped me to discuss going through the death of my loved ones, followed by Sitting with Death, Buddhist insights to help you face your fears and live a peaceful life, based on Season 1 of the Death Dhamma podcast. And just recently, Enlightenment Unleashed, how your pet can lead you to spiritual transformation, because during our lifetime, we may see the rising and ceasing of many pets, and we love them like they are our family. Find these on Amazon.com or come see me at margaretmaloney.com. You've been listening to the Death Dhamma podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on margaretmaloney.com, margaretmeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be at ease, and may you be free from suffering. Bye for now.